Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. God has hidden unlimited treasures in His Word. Every time we open it, we can discover a new treasure, or admire an old one. What will we find today? Let's dig in. Here's Carla Early with Treasure Hunt in the Word.
For those of you talkative types, have you ever told a long, involved story and then forgot the point at the end? I sure have. Sometimes it seems like Paul gets sidetracked in his letters. Anytime he mentions Jesus, he usually goes on what seems like a tangent, telling how awesome he is. But considering it's God's words, Paul's tangent really is the main point. We read the Bible to get to know who God is, what He's like, and how He relates to us. One of those tangents got my attention. Paul was talking about how God delivered us from the power of darkness and transferred us into the kingdom of His Son. Then the tangent starts and goes on for 7 verses about who Jesus is. This is from Colossians 1:14-20. In whom we have redemption through His blood, the forgiveness of sins. He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For by Him all things were created that are in heaven, that are on earth, visible and invisible. Whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through Him and for Him. And He is before all things, and in Him all things consist. And He is the head of the body, the church, who is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in all things He may have preeminence. For it pleased the Father that in Him all the fullness should dwell, and by Him to reconcile all things to Himself, by Him, whether things on earth or things in heaven, having made peace through the blood of His cross. The key verse there was verse 19. For it pleased the Father that in Him all the fullness should dwell. It's really the climax of all the other verses. He is the image of God. He is the firstborn. He has created all things. He's everything God is. He is God. The verse starts out, for it pleased the Father. It was the plan from the beginning that He was to become one of His creation, a person. This was a willing choice, just like everything else in Jesus' life, including the cross. It was part of His plan. Remember the verse that says, for the joy that was set before Him, He endured the cross. It was His choice. And it pleased Him to do it because He knew how it would work out, that we would have the opportunity to receive salvation and live forever with Him. He decided it was worth it. Yeah, He loves us that much. Then there's that word fullness. It pleased the Father that in Him all the fullness should dwell. All of who God is existed in one man, Jesus. Everything that made God God was also in Jesus. His attributes, His character, His divine power, all in one. As Jesus told His disciples, I am in the Father, and the Father in me. And He almost got stoned when He told the Jews, I and the Father are one. But then there's another verse that mentions this fullness, Ephesians 3:19. Paul says, Christ wants to dwell in our hearts by faith, that we may be filled with all the fullness of God. In the Old Testament, God dwelt, or the word was really tabernacled, with His people, in the tabernacle and later in the temple. They had God in their midst. In the Gospels, God was fully dwelling in Jesus, Emmanuel, God with us. But as He promised, when He left, Jesus sent the Holy Spirit, not to live in our midst or even with us, but in us. That's how His fullness, all His character, presence, completeness, and power is in us. That's hard to imagine, isn't it? All of the Old Testament foreshadowed this, but now it's a reality. Colossians 2:9 says, in Him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily, and you are complete in Him. And yet that's only a taste of what is to come, which is something we really cannot imagine. As Jesus said, "In that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you." Do you have the Holy Spirit in you? If you are His, He resides inside of you. You are complete in Him. You are full.
You can contact us at treasurehuntintheword@gmail.com. Also, if you'd like to share a treasure God has given you by doing an episode, please contact us. You can listen to other episodes on our website, which you'll find in the description below. Thanks for listening, and remember, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also.